things has, really, helped me along the way. And then I went back to Michigan State as a head coach. But, I really went back to the NFL because people said you'd have a better chance to get a head coaching job as a coordinator in the NFL than you would from the University of Toledo. So that was my thinking.
In what ways are you similar to Bill Belichick, and what ways are you different?
Well, I don't know. We're both a little old-fashioned. Bill won't hire a coach for me, and I won't hire a coach off of his staff unless we agree that it's the best thing for both of our organizations.
It's happened a handful of times, right?
It's happened a handful of times through the years, and I think there's a loyalty there and a friendship there. And even when I was the head coach of the Miami Dolphins and he was in New England, we were in the same division, and of course Brady was playing there, but it never affected our friendship. It's one of the things that I kind of learned from him, that you can be competitors, you can compete against each other, you want to win just as bad as any other game. But it's not personal. You don't have to take it personally. And when the game is over and both teams competed the best they could, you did the best you could as a coach to get your players to be able to play the best they could. You can shake hands and be friends again. So, Bill is just phenomenal what he's been able to accomplish. And the run with the Super Bowls and. Of course, you got to get lucky a little bit in the NFL, and he certainly hit the jackpot with Brady, drafted in the 6th round. But, so you got to have a quarterback in that league. That's all.
Are you different in any ways? Are you, your personalities or your?
Bill's probably a little more reserved. I think being a college coach, because it's more important than ever that you can develop good relationships with your players. And that's something that I've always taken a lot of pride in, to try to develop those kind of relationships. So players want to play for you, whether you're just a DB coach or you're actually the defensive coordinator, head coach, whatever it is. So that comes from relationships. I think players don't really care what you know until they know that you care, and I think that's something that he really hasn't had to do, because in pro football that's probably not as important. The player, that's their job. They respect you as a coach if you can help them extend their career or improve their performance. So it's not like people think that these guys would be hard to coach. I never found them hard to coach, but the reason that they play, it's a game that's about money. How much money can I make? That's my job. How long can I play? So that's a little bit different than the spirit of college football. Where guys are trying to develop a career, and they're having a lot of fun as college players and student athletes, and it's just it's almost like the difference between fighting for your country and being a mercenary. I don't mean that in a bad way, but so you have a different kind of relationship with pro players. So I think that would probably be the biggest difference, because Bill's never coached in college.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about kind of the current landscape and everything. Hearing you talk about some of those things makes me think about where we are with the game. Carson, what's the 2 or 3 things right now about this sport? When somebody asks you why you like college football over NFL football, what are 2 or 3 things that stand out about the college game that you think are unique?
Well, I think what Coach Saban was saying, you're getting young people in a stage of their life where they're good athletes, obviously, to be in that position, but they're really trying to find out who they are. They're really trying to develop themselves as people, and I think that's one thing that nobody gets to see, the behind the scenes. They can play the game, and they also want to know that they can be successful as people when they leave, that they can be successful husbands and fathers, they can be productive, because they all know, football will end. They do know that. Football will end. Football may end during their career as a college player. They also know they may not be the best player when they step on campus. Maybe they're not going to be that guy right away. And so it's really about having an opportunity to help these young men mold themselves, so when they leave there, they're going to be successful. College is not a career. You know, they're there for experience, and hopefully you can give them that. And so to me, that really is what I enjoy about it. You know, you can talk about character, you can talk about discipline, you can talk about these things that they know are going to help them be successful. You can emphasize academics and whether they like school or not, still explain to them how powerful that degree will be when they go compete for an opportunity for a job. That's going to open up so many doors. Because the one thing I tell the players is, you know, you're going to end your career at some point playing this game, but you're always going to be a competitor. All right, so what are you going to do next? And I think you have their attention, really. Not that NFL players don't want those same things, but I think you really have the attention of the players to still have this concept of team and still have this idea of building the individual and developing the individual. And I think the pageantry of college sports is just different. You know, it's you get to do things, and like you asked me before, you get to do things through this game that you don't get to experience and be there firsthand in a lot of other areas of your life. And so I hope the players that we coach and have been through our programs, they don't take that for granted. And you know, that they take advantage of the opportunity that they do have. And so, you know, they all want to make it to the NFL, you know, but you gotta start somewhere. First of all, you gotta come in and just be a great teammate. First, the second thing is you gotta get your plan to get your degree. Then you gotta start. Then you gotta help your team succeed. Then you want to help that team win a championship. And if you're one of the 1%, you have a chance to go on and play at the next level. The other 99%, they're still really, really important too. All right, they're going to be successful as well. And so just getting guys to understand that, that's what I enjoy, that you have a group of men that sit there and look at you each and every day, and they're looking at you to help them really define some of the things that they're trying to figure out in their life. They're looking at you to model those same things. And when they leave, you're hoping that they'll all want to come back. You know, you want them on the sideline. You want them to be back. You want them to talk about your program wherever they're at and say, one of the biggest reasons why I'm here is because of what I went through as a part of that program and a part of that coaching staff and the teammates and the relationships that I built. So to me, that's what I enjoy about college football. That's what I enjoy about the coach student athletes and being part of that.
Coach, you were, that's outstanding. So when you talk about your NFL and college, what separates in your mind, your experience in the game, the college game? What do you love about it? What stands out?
Well, I like coaching in the NFL. I love coaching in college. And I think a lot of it is you have an opportunity to help someone be more successful in life because of their involvement in your program. Whether it's personal development, whether it's academic support, the importance of them getting an education, whether it's developing a career as a football player. And there's so many things in sports that teaches people values that are going to be immeasurable in their chances of being successful when they go out in the real world. You know, the kind of mindset that they have, the goals that they have, the process of what you have to go through to accomplish a goal, how you have to edit your behavior to be able to accomplish a goal. I always tell players, is this behavior going to help you accomplish the goals that you have? And then you have the discipline to execute it every day. And I'm really talking about self-discipline, you know, not the sign that's up in the locker room that says do what you're supposed to do, when you're supposed to do it, the way it's supposed to get done, do the right thing the right way, the right time, all the time. You know, self-discipline, we all make hundreds of decisions every day that come down to two questions. Here's something I know I'm supposed to do that I really don't want to do. Can you make yourself do it? And then over here, there's something you're not supposed to do, but you want to do it. Can you keep yourself from it? So if you can make those choices and decisions the right way, you're always going to be able to stay on the path to accomplish the goals that you have. And I think in college, because you have a guy at a time in his life where he's still developing, that you have a chance to use some of these principles and values of good character, creating value for yourself in the choices and decisions you make, having resiliency to overcome adversity, perseverance to sustain, pride in performance, being the best that you can be. You know, all these things carry over. Where when you're in the NFL, those players have already probably, you know, sort of developed those things, and they kind of are what they are. And if you don't like the way a guy's character is, you just fire him and get somebody else. Where in college, you know, we're kind of committed to, you know, we're going to help this guy. We're going to try to fix him. We're going to try to get him to do it better, to be better, to understand the consequences of good and bad behavior that are going to affect his image and his ability to be successful in the future. And I just think that's a tremendous challenge, and I think it's a lot of fun to have relationships with the guys of that age, and it's very self-gratifying to see them develop personally, academically, and athletically, and have some guy come back to you when he graduates or years later and say, you know, the fact that I was in the program, I learned a lot, it's really helped me be successful.
Tony Brown being example. All that is what makes you guys the coaches that you are. But with today's rules and some of the new things that are going on, as you're describing that, I'm thinking about name, image, and likeness, and transfer portal, and guys that get upset and leave if they don't want that tough love, or they don't want to learn those valuable life lessons. Maybe speak to us about, you know, living on the front lines with these players. How is it different today than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, with some of these new rules?
It's different today than it was a year ago. A lot different. You know, I said when all these things happened, you know, that is this really what we want college football to be? And I think we all have to adapt to whatever the circumstance is, and we're certainly, you know, doing that. And some of these things are very good for players. I think name, image, and likeness is an opportunity for players to work and make money, which they've always been able to do. So it's not a bad thing that they can use their name, image, and likeness to do that. I think when we start using name, image, and likeness to get a player to come to our school, then that's where I kind of draw the line, because that's not why that's not the reason that the guy should go to a particular institution. It should be because this is the best place for me to develop my career, on the field and off the field. It shouldn't be because this school's going to give me this much and that school's going to give me that much, and we all got to make a deal, and it's all got to be funded by some marketing deal, which means that people are paying to do that, and they're not supporting the institution and other sports to help people have opportunities. All right, so I'm all for the players making money. I don't think it ever should be a reason for a guy to go to a school, because it's really, you know, almost promotes what we've never been able to do, which was extra benefits to get a guy to school. And I hear these crazy people out there on TV saying, well, now you're just doing it and it's above board. We never did it. We never did it. Never cheated to get a player. We never paid players to come to our school. All right, and so, but now that's actually happening. People are making deals with high school players to go to their school. All right, so the schools that are willing to put forth the most money, or the alumni are willing to support the most, they got the best chance to have the best team. And it's not going to be about coaching and developing as much as it is as what kind of money can you make. When it comes to the portal, I think players should have the freedom of choice, but I also think that, look, I've gone through 3 generations of people. My dad used to walk 3 miles to school every day. All right. He and my mom wanted it better for me and my sister, but they taught us the values of hard work, treating people right, you know, having compassion for other people, do things the right way, never quit, have perseverance, be the best you can be at whatever it is you choose to do. And then now we have a situation where we don't want anybody to fail. So we create an avenue for another opportunity to do something else if things get difficult, but yet no one really can be successful in life if they can't overcome adversity. Because you're always going to have adversity in your life. All right, so you almost have to fail to succeed in a lot of ways. And how you learn from your failures you know, it's great that the players have the freedom to do what they can do. But I also think we shouldn't create circumstances where they don't have to make commitments and then see things through. And if they don't do that, there's some consequence, for that. The other thing that Porter has done, which I think some people don't realize, is lots of high school coaches are saying if you're not a Power 5 player, you're not getting the same kind of opportunities to go to other than Power 5 schools, the lesser schools, because they're not giving out scholarships to high school players. They're taking all their players out of the portal. So we've actually created a situation where young people are not getting the same kind of opportunities that they were able to get, in the past. And I don't think that's a really good thing.
Yeah, I think what Coach Saban said is really what every coach feels, right now with the players. What you don't want to do is spoil the experience that these guys have or have an opportunity to have. And it is about going to a place that you feel you can better yourself. That's why you chose a university, the football program, the coaches, the academics, where you live, all those things were factors. And, the first thing with the portal, there's going to be adversity. And I think that's one thing that everybody knows. But just because you have a bad day doesn't mean it's time to pack up and leave. All right? And really what you have to do as coaches right now, and Coach Saban said it, it's changed in a year, is get ahead of that and explain that and be open about that and say you're going to have some bad moments. Let's not make it a bad day, all right? And try to really think through that and know that those experiences are going to get you better. And then be able to have conversations about it. Don't just hang on to them. Reflect on it, have a conversation about it, and move on and learn from it and improve. And what you've added on top of that now is NIL. And how this was all explained to me was through this influencer app. This is where NIL was first explained to me. There's going to be the opportunity for you as a player to have X amount of followers, and then they're going to ask you to promote things for them because you have a large amount of people following you, and that's going to make you more popular, and you're going to get more opportunities, and so on and so forth. It's changed a little bit since then, but in my mind, I'm thinking, so you're going to be judged by your popularity, by how many people follow you. Well, that's going to be great when it's all good. And when you come right back and you don't have quite the game, or you know what, you have a bad game, which everybody does, do the followers drop and all of a sudden you're less valued by everybody else, when in all reality you're just as equally valued as everybody that's on that team, and as a coach, you're trying to continue to help that guy develop and learn from those mistakes. And so I think there's a lot that takes away from what we're all trying to do with each and every one of our players, is just help them develop, help them see what they have as far as their potential, all right, their opportunity to develop themselves in your program, and really stay focused on the main things. And we've made the main things things that we don't control right now. And I've talked about this, and you know this. I mean, social media, if you ever open up anything, hey, if you post something, I guarantee you the first comment is negative. And it's the sewer. It's the sewer. And I tell our guys, man, get out of the sewer. You don't need to be on that right now. Because if you're going to read all the good, then when it doesn't go good, I don't want you reading all the bad. Right now, I hope our guys can stay focused on what they have to do, and the people that are around them, what they have to say, and continue to know that this is a really important time in their life, and to keep your circle small, and to let the people around you help you develop. So there's a lot going on right now with our players, and there's a lot of discussions, but at the end of the day, I really think it comes down to what Coach Saban said. It comes down to the relationships, it comes down to the trust, and it comes down to just staying focused on the main things. And those opportunities, they're going to be there. Do it the right way. But at the end of the day, hey, you still have a lot of great things that college and being on a scholarship and having an opportunity to play in environments like we do that are still really important really exciting, and don't lose sight of that with all these other things and let that spoil your experience.
You know, one thing that would be interesting if we could figure out 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road is, did these guys really benefit more from going someplace else? Or would they have been better off to learn how to do what is very important in their life? Is we have a lot of players who get disappointed in their circumstance. So they're frustrated because they're not playing more, they're not catching enough passes, whatever it might be. So those are the guys that want to cut and run. But really, the key to success is I need to learn how, and when they play in the game, when we give them an opportunity to play in the game, they don't play very well. I mean, we had some guys in the national championship game that, you know, they were upset all season long because they were young guys and didn't get to play as much and all that, so they didn't practice as well, they didn't develop. They didn't have to play, but when we got guys injured, they had to play, and not one of them could take advantage of their opportunity. So, it's much more important that these young people learn how to develop the kind of skills that it takes to work hard every day, to invest their time, and to be ready to take advantage of the opportunity when it comes. So you're going to do all the things you need to do so you can be successful, not get frustrated with your circumstance. So when you get a chance to play, you're going to be able to take advantage of it. And I think that's what we lose. And then what is more beneficial when you're 30 years old and you have 2 children and you're trying to be a good parent? That experience of learning how to do that, or cutting and running and going over here because you're frustrated about the service.
We're out of time. Anyway, one last thing, just because there's a lot of parents out here and have kids themselves, just if you were to give them, in this world that we live in, social media and the pressures that even kids, not just Alabama and Auburn players, but just kids that are in middle school trying to make it to high school, and high school kids trying to make it to college. If you were to just give them one piece of advice, what would you guys say to them? And to the parents?
Yeah, well, you know, I caught what Coach Franklin and Sark were talking about up here, and I do agree with that. I think one of the main things is you have values as parents, and I really do believe this. And I've got a 21-year-old daughter, a 19-year-old daughter, and a 15-year-old son, and they're always trying to negotiate with me. All right, and there's some things that are non-negotiable. And that's okay, and I want them to learn that. You know, there are things when it comes to the character of your children, all right? How you treat people, how you make them feel when they're around you. To shake somebody's hand, to write a thank you letter, to say please and thank you. There's some things that I feel like as parents, that is our responsibility to make sure that our kids understand that. Because that's who we are as parents, and those are things that we've learned and want to pass down. But there's so much negotiation, you know, and I see that. I know with my own kids, and I also know with players that I coach and families is, you know what, hey, no, that's not the right thing to do. And no, it's not okay. And it's perfectly fine to let them know that and to let them learn from it. That would be number one. Number two, support them, love them. All right, be there for them. And, you know, when they come to you and they have ideas, and this is one thing as a parent that I always have to be intentional about, when they come to you with ideas, you know what? Listen before you talk. Listen before you talk. Let them bring this idea to you, and before you're like, oh, that's a bad idea, listen. Let them talk through what it is they're processing. You might be like, there's no way. You can think it, but don't let that come out of your mouth right away. And let them have their ideas, because we don't talk. You know, I look at our staff. We might be waiting for a staff meeting, and the door's shut, and I'm walking there, and you know, all the coaches are on their phones. They're all looking at each other, and no one really talks. I walk through the locker room, and no one really talks. And those are the moments there that I think you have a chance to really check on somebody. You know, how's your dad doing? How's somebody in your family doing? And we got to communicate, but we've gotten away from that. And I think a lot of it is because we don't really listen. We listen to talk. We listen to have our voice heard. And I know for our players, being around young people, when you sit back and you let them tell you what they're thinking before you have your opinion right away, that helps in their development. So, stick to the values that you do have, make it important to them, help them understand, and listen to them because they have a lot of really good ideas. They're developing, they're thinking, they're trying, they're working through some things they have to work through, and I think that'll help them in two ways. All right, by those two things, giving them confidence and letting them develop themselves, all right, as they grow. So those are two things that I found that I think are really important.
So, Miss Terry and I have always had a philosophical difference about our children. She wants to make them happy, and I want to make them do right. And I think there's a little bit of conflict there sometimes. But I do think that values, good values, are essential to being a good person, treating other people the right way, and I think it's important in our society. And I think that's one of the things that's made our country so great, is we've always had great, moral checks and balances, whether it's through our churches, communities, people caring about each other, people trying to help each other do the right things. And I think it's really important with young people that you communicate, because it's much harder to communicate now than ever before. When I was a kid, we all sat down every night at the dinner table, and there was a reckoning. My dad would hit the table and say, "Did you cut the grass today? Did you sweep? Did you mow? Did you put the mower away?" And if you didn't do it, you had to go do it again. And that was just about everything, because there was a certain way you had to do things. It was the values that we had in terms of doing things the right way and doing it the best you could do it. And I think it's important to be able to do that. Well, my house, my kids are older and gone now, but when they were there, they wanted to get their food, take it upstairs, get on the internet, get on their computer, talk to their friends, and eat while they were doing it, and run into the wall while they were reading their phone. So I do think it's really, really important to communicate, and I do think you have to find out what their interest is and what they're interested in, and sort of pay attention to that, and find ways to be able to talk to them about things that are important to them, not just things that are important to you. Right? And I know we all work hard. And I know sometimes when you get home, you don't feel like talking to your kids. You don't feel like spending time. You don't feel like investing any time, in what they did today and how they did it. But you have to be able to do that, to have a good relationship with your children. And I think parenting can be one of the most difficult things. But I can tell you this, it's so important to support your kids even when they do things that you wish they never would have done, even when they have problems that you wish you never had to deal with, because sometimes they're going to do things that you wish they didn't, but at the same time, to stick with them, not to ever, go south on them. They'll work their way through it. And when they're 15 to 21 years old, like coaches are, they're challenging. And they do a lot of things that you wish they wouldn't have. But at the same time, they'll come out the other end, and they'll come out the other end better people if you stick with them and just try to teach them some lessons in life as they go through and make mistakes. Because I fail is why I succeed, something Michael Jordan said. So the best opportunities for them to learn is when they make mistakes. And you have to have patience with that, and you can't just jump on them all the time. You got to help them learn their way. And, figure out what kind of goals do you have? What do you want to do? What's important to you? And then how is this behavior that you're having right here, how is that helping you do that? And if it's not helping you do it, why are you doing it? That's one thing Kobe Bryant said to our team when he came and visited with us for a whole day a couple of years ago, is how do you have to edit your behavior to accomplish the goals that you have? Well, if you don't have any goals, you don't have any aspirations to accomplish anything, how can you define what that behavior needs to be? So I think it's a challenging to be a good parent, but I think investing your time in our young people to help them develop the values that they can be successful is probably the greatest thing any of us can do.